this evening, and he is hot. Sometimes he really shocks me. Sometimes I'm inspired by him. His name is Peter Cook, and his sign name is PC. He considers himself really a true artist. He doesn't follow any kind of system or any school of thought. He's independent from all of that. And this afternoon he said, I've never experienced myself being prohibited from using ASL. So that's where he's coming from. I'd like you all to help me give him a warm welcome, Peter Cook.
Talk with silent shout. My hands are moving its lips as post cries out. A post. Wow, it's exciting to be here. It's been almost 4 months struggling and getting closer to the goal, and the convention's coming up, and finally here I am, and it's really exciting. So I'm going to express all this stuff to you tonight. You know, for many years, all along, different cultures, deaf, blind, black, have been oppressed all over the world. And now I'd like to focus your attention on Central America, where the oppression of the poor peasants has been. This is kind of a long poem, and it's dedicated to the Archbishop Romero, who's a priest in El Salvador. Bottom of the third inning of Romero. In the church, Spanish wooden doors, an arched hallway leads to an altar under a spiring clay bell tower. The Archbishop appeals to his flocks. I want to make a special call to the men of the army. Brothers, you come from the same people as we. You are killing your brothers and sisters, the peasants. And when ordered to kill, given by a man, you should rather obey the laws of God. Thou shalt not kill. No soldier is obligated to ignore God's laws. Therefore, the church can no longer remain silent. Her people are suffering, the cries screaming up towards heaven. I urge you, I beg you, I order you in the name of God, stop the repression. On his robe, a wine-like stain grows wider and wider. Church doors burst open. Holy stampedes downstairs past National Guard. Romero sheep escaping missing status down dirty streets. Fray escaping missing. Escaping missing. In the heart of the market, a pot-bellied vendor with missing digit. Fresh, ripe melons. Piles of fruit on tables. Hooked chickens. Clothing. A goat with a sacred bell. And an old peasant woman in fiesta dress selling yams. Through the market, a church escapee runs past the melons. Trips over the goat, past the fiesta-dressed woman who eyes the invisible death squad in his wake. An alleyway. By a little boy with a chicken for sale. Above the white clay house, through the window, an old woman haggles over the chicken while escapee comes to a huge green wall with a man behind the counter. Hands him a ticket so he can enter past the huge green wall, up the ramp, and into the arched ceiling, out into the open where his eyes meet. Man streaking for fake safety as hands of dirt pierce its teeth. You're out! And the flock of baseball goers cheers and rattles in the stands. Escapee ascends the steps and finds an empty seat past a pot-bellied Havana-smoking man with a missing digit. As he begins to settle, unguided ball shrieks over, causing flocks of fans elevating to tear each other. Fans climb church escapee like a ladder. As he begins to hide his head, flocks of hands reach for an American ball. But the eyes of the fans return to the stadium. Chained to the dugout, a white goat with a sacred bell. Runners on first and third. He looks the man back, leading off first, and eyes the man with a short lead-off third. Runner going! Catcher missiles ball towards second baseman, who, reaching for the ball, sees the man on third heading for home, ignores runner sliding into second, and throws for home. Runner safe at second. Runner and ball race towards home plate, guarded by the catcher. and runner collide in spiral fashion. And the fans go wild. And then hush as a line of police enter the stadium. But the moment is in the game. It's a long fly ball, headed deep into left center field. Fielder, glasses down, heads back, running towards the wall. He's on the warning track. He leaps as the fans watch the ball graze over his glove, signaling a home run over the wall and over the eye of the boy. The ball, pulled down by friction, hits a wall of white clay and bounces, chased by the boy, through a crack in the wall. The boy follows. As he picks up the ball, innocent eyes travel across grass to the cheering crowd in the white lines. An American ball and a chicken. A ball and a chicken. Okay, I'm famous for sweating easily, so. Allen Ginsberg, it's interesting. He used to use an incense, for timing. You know how much time he was using up? When it was over, his performance was over. I figure it out by sweating. That's when the performance ends. Right here, that means we're still going. Do you mind if we have a little more light so I can see the audience? Light into the audience here? Thank you. Okay, now, I'm curious, what do you think is the hottest issue from last summer? I know there's a million things, but if you had to pick one, I'm sure you'd agree with me it would be Irangate. All the problems, the hearings, everything. It's an interesting thing that they use two technical words. Plausible deniability. Okay, now what does that mean? Plausible means possible, could have happened. And deniability means maybe it didn't happen, or at least you can't prove it. So they come together to mean a double maybe. So there's no proof like that President Reagan lied. We can't get him. We can't prove it, but we know it. So that's what that means. And the reason I'm talking to you about that word is that it could mean also like something that almost happened but didn't. Maybe it happened but it didn't. Okay, I've got a friend. Now this is a story. And he told me that he was working in the army, you know. And it's a true story. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. You can't prove me wrong. I know it happened. Plausible deniability that it happened, okay? No proof. Okay, this is what he told me. He was working down in the missile silos, you know, with the buttons and the computers and the radar and with the missiles, things like that. And he was talking to his co-worker, signing. He was deaf. And he said, wow, did you see the game last night? He went running in towards home plate, slid in. And then when he did that, he accidentally pushed the button for the sliding sign. Bing, 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 bing. He was looking the other way. He pushed another button. Oh, hey, Bill, what's wrong? I just pushed the button. You pushed the button? Oh my God, I pushed the button. Signing is dangerous. Bing, 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 bing. And the electrical signal started traveling up the wires. Thinking quickly, he cut the wires with a pair of scissors. And the alarm went dead. No. This is what really happened. He was talking to his friend. He said, did you see that baseball game last night? He was sliding into it. Oh, shit, I just pushed the button. He pushed the button. Hey, Bill, what's wrong? You pushed the button? I pushed the button. Oh, my God, I pushed the button. Pulling out his pair of trusty scissors, he cut the wire. But the electrical signal happened to jump across one little spark, and it continued. Red alert. Bing, 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 bing. Airplanes getting into ready. Pilot, co-pilot, into the cockpit. Tell him it's a false alarm. False alarm, false alarm. Root, root. Damn, deaf pilot. Plane takes off. Shit. Going on empty. Plane drops in the sky. Is that what happened? No. What really happened, he said, baseball slid into home plate. I pushed the button, you pushed the button, I pushed the button, cut the signal went across anyway. Plane, guy gets into the airplane anyway, cockpit takes off. Oh, red alert, red alert. There's the resupply plane, what are we gonna do? Don't worry, it's my turn here, said the co-pilot. So he swung the plane up, high, next to the other plane, so that he could be seen through the window by the resupply man who was reading. Hey, I need gas, please. Now, hurry up! You need gas? You need gas? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Wire hose out, rubber hose out. Filling up, on full. Thank you. And they flew. And soon over Russia, Red Square. How'd they get through the surveillance? Anyway, time to drop the bomb. Tell the bombardier. Now, wait a minute. The bombardier is deaf, right? Yep, he's deaf. How can I contact him? There's no TTY. Government cuts again. Is that plausible deniability? No. What really happened is baseball game, slid into home plate, push the button, you push the button, cut the wire. Planes, takes off. Red alert, call off the alert. Resupply. The bombardier was really playing with the button. Oh no! I wiped the fingerprints off. I didn't do it. Into the cockpit. Hey, pilot. What's the problem? I just dropped the bomb. I'm sorry, I don't understand sign language. Hearing pilot, no communication. Is that plausible deniability? No. What happened? Baseball, push the button, cut the wire. Into the airplane, plane takes off. Gas, resupply, bomb, drop the bomb. Co-pilot, wait a minute, I understand sign language, I'm deaf too. Okay, fine, just wait a minute, I want to talk to the pilot here. What's the matter with you? You don't know sign language? You've been working with this guy for 3 years? Excuse me, wait a minute, stop interrupting me. Listen, pilot, you gotta learn sign language. Hey, what's the problem? I dropped the bomb. What? He dropped the bomb. Shit, plane drops down out of the sky. catching up with the bomb, nearing the ground. The plane tips upside down. Bomb bay doors open, catches the bomb neatly, and flies off. That's plausible deniability. If you don't believe me, that's fine. But it's plausible deniability. Thank you. Okay, now Debbie Rennie will join me, and we're going to do a poem of hers right now.
I don't know if I'm ready. Okay. Good job. I didn't see that performance. That's great.
Really, really. See the sweat level?
Okay, so me when I'm signing, you get to hold up that little sweat line for a while?
Maybe.
Neat thing about sign language is you can play with several people at the same time with a language. This poem is called Psychotic Memory, and it's based on a true story, something that happened in my personal history. Ivory Victorian bathtub, silver spigot, water running. A woman lies there. A piece of broken memory. There was a van. A man was driving. A woman beside him said, I don't understand you.
Shut up! And he floored it. Speedometer going wild, trees rushing by. Hamburg!
Stop! Stop! Stop!
I don't care! Windshield. Shattering into 1,000 pieces.
But it was all in my mind.
Trees
Hamburg,
blurring
splat.
by. I don't care!
I don't understand!
I don't care!
I don't understand!
I don't care!
I don't
Shut
understand
up.
you! I don't
Shut up.
care! I
Shut
don't
up.
care!
Windshield. Windshield. Shattering into 1,000,000 pieces.
But it was all in my mind.
Driving. Driving. Driving.
I don't understand. What's
Shut
wrong?
up! He floored it. Speedometer going wild.
Trees rushing by.
Hamburg.
Splat! Stop! Stop! Stop!
I don't care. Windshield. Shattering.
But it was all in my mind.
Trees blurring by.
Driving, driving.
Hamburg.
Hamburg. Hamburg.
Stop. 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 Okay, now I have a not really haiku. And it's called Cook's Haiku with Learner's Mind. It's a poem that Kenny and I worked on together. The water, sparkling. And cold. leaping up over the water, hair, glasses, and beard. Coming down, toe coming close to touch. The ice cold water chills its way up the legs. Freezing sensation up towards scrotum tucked in, stomach pulled in. Chattering teeth submerged and out. Okay, the next one is a fun poem. I really enjoy this one. And also has some private jokes for someone, or people, or whatever. This poem, Kenny and I worked on together in a place out there, and then we created it there, and that's where it's going to start. And it's called Weak Spot. Deaf people, you can hit yourself in the neck now. Excuse me, off the point. Weak spot. The sun setting over Lake Ontario. Waves crashing against rocks, dotting the beach. A wooden wall. Me and Kenny playing frisbee. Hair, glasses. Go, Kenny, go! Overshot and hits the wall, which starts to crack and crumble. Pieces of dirt flowing down into the water, grass moving down, trees, and a house. A tree splashes into the water, house slowly moving down into the water. Street starts going down, parked cars falling down into the water, policeman directing traffic into the water, police car following policeman into the water, someone cooking in a restaurant. The city of Rochester, Kodak, into the water. R.I.T. N.T.I.D. It's the National Deaf Poetry Conference. Ella continuing her way down into the water. Patrick Grable singing One Man down into the water. Debbie Rennie, chocolate, into the water. Valley following a snowflake into the water. Peter Cook, weak spot, into the water. Binghamton, New Jersey, don't blame me. I'm from New Jersey too, into the water. Washington, D.C. It's the Washington Monument. Gallaudet College. The White House, I don't know, into the water. The Atlantic Ocean, into the water. England, it's the Queen's Guard at Buckingham Palace. First time they've ever smiled, into the water. Paris, the Eiffel Tower. Russia. China, the Great Wall spaghettiing down with Japanese tourists taking pictures all the way down into the water. Japan. Russia, it's a big country, still going down into the water. The Pacific Ocean, into the water. Everything into the water, into the water. Bubbles. Okay, if you're wondering what all this stuff is for, poems should have a pretty environment, low-key environment, something different, so that's why these things are out here. I drew that back a few years back. I was traveling around and I was stuck in a snowstorm in Virginia for 4 days and things were canceled. I was in the hotel room, sitting there, and didn't know what to do. So I put some paper on the wall, newspaper, then put some paper on and started drawing. It was a good night. So it's here tonight to watch me perform. Now this is my last poem. I know you've all experienced growing up an animal that you really loved, a dog or a cat or a bird, something you could really feel close to. I had a big brown dog named Charlie Brown. And I love that dog, and this poem is dedicated to him. Charlie. Charlie, running through grass for love. As a puppy, Charlie spots the female patron entering the store for his brother. Followed by a green-clad patron whose hand was colder than his big shadow. Carries Charlie into a small, dark box and starts turning the temperature up, warmer and warmer and warmer and hotter and hotter. And then starts cooling it down a bit, and colder, and colder, and colder. Charlie running through grass. Greenhorn Charlie, adolescent. Get it, Charlie. Come on. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Come on. He stumbles and drops it. Bad dog, Charlie! Stupid! You'll blow your head off! Charlie, leaping off grass. Older greenhorn Charlie under barbed wire, bombs, machine gun. Charlie reaching towards a padded arm. Experienced grunt, Charlie searching for a hole. Released down into the tunnel. A rabbit ignored. Nearing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a bungalow, small, with candles on a table and a gun rack. An Oriental playing solitaire and drinking rice wine. Charlie, with an instinctive memory, jaws reaching up towards unpadded arm. Good boy, Charlie. Charlie leaps up into the bungalow, cards spraying, candles spilling, wine down, jaws reaching towards unpadded arm, tearing blood vessels towards the jugular. And through the hole, a green-cladded patron. Good boy, Charlie, good boy. Chopper. Good boy, Charlie. Good boy. Into the chopper. Charlie leaps up towards the helicopter pontoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Now we'd like to have the coordinator of the conference come on up, Jim Cohn, please.
Thanks, Matthew. Peter, come up here. Beautiful job. Do I have a voice now? Yes. Okay. It's very hard to know exactly where to begin my end. There's so many people who were involved for quite a while to bring this convention, the National Deaf Poetry Conference. Of course, you've seen the performers themselves, Peter Cook, Debbie Rennie, Patrick Graybill, Ella May Lenz, Clayton Valley. Many people that I personally want and need you all to know about. I want you to know who supported me and helped me make this conference a success. And I want you to know that I think inside myself that this conference was a big success. Really. Yeah.
Chef, okay? His sign name is PC, not like a cook. One of a few good friends of mine. I've enjoyed his creativity very, very much. He's a very independent performer. He's not a conformist, if you know what that means. He's liberated himself. He's very free as an artist. And he considers himself an artist. That's Peter Cook for you. And now I will let his own presentation speak for itself, okay? It's my pleasure to welcome Peter Cook.
Thank you. Hello. I think it's neat that sometimes my friends here, all the friends here that work together and really close or whatever, or people we don't know. People with different ideas come together and they show each other their ideas and they're the same. It really happens often, and a perfect example here is a videotape. I had no idea what was going to happen, but some important things happen there that are in my lecture, and they're important. And that was an important moment. It influenced my life in becoming a poet. Today, I want to start my lecture with some thoughts from a woman, a hearing poet. Her name is Diane DePrima. She's from Boulder, Colorado. She teaches poetry there. And she was lecturing to a class, and one of her students asked, "How long does it take to become a poet? What do you do?" And her response was, "It depends on how the poetry comes out of you. How you work on your inner self, your body, understanding your body limits, your mental limits, and how they come together. You become a tool for your body. If you understand your body limits, how your energy changes on the different levels, and if you play on them and understand them and open up to it all, the history of you, you open up to the history of you, the biology of you, the myth of you, and they all come together inside, the energy in there, and you let the poem or poems influence you and play with it and experiment with it and change it. Maybe it's powerful or low key or rhythmic. Then you can express it through a non-thought thinking form like Zen, meaning maybe you think about something, you study and plan and think and you get up to lecture and you talk. No, it means you understand something after you study it, and your heart understands it, and it just comes out of you without thinking. That's what I mean. If you can take the energy, your body, and non-thoughts, and kind of have it all together, you can express it, and it becomes poetry. It's a good thought, because here I am with you, and I'm going to share my experiences with you that have come about since 1983. I'm not a linguist, I'm not an English teacher, I'm not a philosopher. I'm simply myself, that's all. And so I'd like to share that with you today. Okay? You're going to experience a timeline. And we're going to travel together through this timeline. But I'm going to go off of the point. I'm famous for going off of the point. To be less confusing, when I'm over here in blue, that means my views on philosophy, things like that. When I'm on this side of the timeline, I'll talk about technical things, how I develop my poems, my learning. In the middle is the timeline, and I'll be popping back and forth between them. So that'll be a little more clear for you. Before I start the lecture, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background and my prerequisites, my prior experiences that led up to what I am. I was born hearing, and when I was 3 years old, I came down with spinal meningitis, and I became deaf. I went to the New Jersey School for the Deaf for 3 years, and my parents didn't feel too good about that, so they put me into the Clark School for the Deaf. I know a lot of people say, Clark School, that's the sign for it because it's an oral school, you know, that's your lips moving. And I'm proud of that. I mean, I'm not proud of that, but that's what happened. And I was there for 9 years. And then I graduated, and I went to a private high school in Pennsylvania. It wasn't a mainstream school, it was hearing, small school, and the emphasis was on art. And the requirements were like 4 hours a day on art. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. When I graduated, I came here to NTID RIT, That was about 1981. And this was the first time I learned sign language, about 8 years ago, 6 years ago. I graduated from here with a bachelor's degree in graphic design, and then I got involved in a theater group called Sunshine 2. It was a deaf and hearing group that went around performing all around the country. And while I was involved in that, I was doing other programs, poetry, investigating various things around Rochester. And I got into a group called Bridge Of, which is a poetry performing group that Debbie, Jim, Donna, and Kenny are all involved with me. We're traveling a little bit, and we're starting that now. Now that I've finished that, I'll talk a little bit about my prerequisites. They're important because they cause me to become who I am, how I deal with poetry. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. First thing, when I was growing up, I was alone. I was a single child. There were no brothers or sisters in my family, and we moved all over the place. We never stayed in the same place, and I never had any permanent friends. So I had to make them up, like Dracula, or sword fighter, or a soldier. I made up my friends. And as I grew up, I realized it's really important for kids to create that. They really believe in their creations while they're doing it. When you were growing up, you doing that kind of creating, and then when you get older and you start being an adult and you have more responsibility, you start thinking, I can't play like that. It's too silly. And you kind of lose that and get into the world. But that creativity is really important because it's energy from your mind, from your inside. Most of you working every day are using your left side of the brain. There's two parts of your brain. The left side, that's like math, business, everyday things that you have to think about. But the right side of your brain is that creative, abstract side. Now, I'll show you how I feel like with the left side and the right side. I'll show you how they are. Suppose I showed you a picture of President Reagan, for example. You would recognize him right away. Oh, that's the president. That's from your left side, and it knows right off the bat what's going on. It's seen him over and over again. But suppose I turn that picture upside down. Look at it, and then you'd figure out it was the president. But while you were looking at it, your mind would be going to the right side, and your eyes would be you would be looking at the eyes on the bottom, and then the mouth upside down, and then finally you'd figure it out. And while you're looking at that stuff, that's experiencing the right side. And if you really get into something like performance and stuff like that, and that kind of creative energy, it's from that side of the brain. When I was a kid, I was doing that a lot. I was traveling a lot. I was alone. And the peer pressure didn't come to me until I was late, till I was older. So I didn't stop playing with my G.I. Joe army doll, till I was almost 16 years old. Imagine that. Because of that late age, I realized that creativity was really important, and that energy was really important, and playing is really important. And you can take all those experiences out and think about them and come up with something from them. So now let's put that aside and start looking at my high school experiences. My high school was called Soulberry School from Pennsylvania. And I call that the Soulberry experience because that school really focused on art every day, very deeply. Philosophy, intellectual things. And at that time I didn't know sign language. I was oral, but my speech wasn't that good, so how could I communicate with the other students? You know, it forced me to try and act things out, like I gotta go to the bathroom. But if I wanted to discuss, like, Marx's view of communism, how was I going to explain that with my body language? I had to really act things out, you know. It forced me to get really abstract when I was acting things out. For example, I saw a really good dance group one time, and they had a man who was naked and a woman with a really long dress, and she sat on his shoulder so that it looked like it was a really tall woman dancing around on the stage. And so I wanted to tell my friends about that. So I told my friend I saw, and this is what I did. So I explained it with my body language and my experience. That forced me to use better body language. And I started to understand what my body could do. Okay, so now we'll set that school experience aside and talk about what maybe was the biggest influence on my life. Around 1976, I went to a National Association for the Deaf conference, NAD, in Ohio. It was a 100-year celebration. And at that time, I didn't know sign language. I went into the conference, and there was this deaf world. And there were all these hands flying all over the place. You know, if you're a hearing person, you go into that situation. That's the same way I felt for the first time. And I went all over the place. It was a little frustrating trying to communicate. That's not what really hit me. What hit me was a workshop, a theater workshop given by Bernard Bragg, sign name BB. He gave this workshop on VV, visual vernacular. Let me try that again. Vernacular. It's a tough word to spell. Anyway, the technique that he explained really influenced my work. How to develop one or two characters but stay in the exact same place. How to use your body direction to show one person and then the second person, depending on which way you're facing. So I'll demonstrate this with his hunting dog famous situation. There was a dog, a bird, there's the dog, and the hunter. The dog pointing, the hunter whistles, the bird flies. See what I'm doing? There's three things. There's the hunter, the dog, and the bird. And that really hit me. And he just stayed in one place. It was amazing. So at that time, I was still in high school, and so when I was communicating with my friends, I didn't stay in one place, but I used that technique to show different characters all at once. So let's hold on to Bernard Bragg, set him aside now, and go to the next prerequisite. When I came into NTID, my first 2 years, my friends were always talking and playing, and all of us loved to read this magazine called Heavy Metal. You know, all these illustrated ideas, fantasy ideas drawn out. You think it's nothing, but it was a strong influence. And I'll show you what I mean. Have patience, don't worry about the drawing and try and figure it out. The important thing is the frames themselves. The big frame and the small, thinner frames. In this experience, in this situation, often the big frame explains what's in the story, the environment. It gives the details. The back, what's in behind, what's in front, what's all around. And the smaller frames often use like the same image again and again, Maybe the person is running, and he's running in this, all in the frames. But the smaller frames help, because you could see like a story with a man, and maybe I'd act this out. A man in shining armor, and the sun is out, and the trees are all around, and he's riding on a horse, and there's another knight in shining armor coming at him, and they're going to joust. Okay, so what I'm doing is a visual translation. There were no words involved in that magazine, and I only used a few signs. Here he is riding, there's the guy riding the other way, and the guy facing each other. So that technique helped me to understand how to use Bernard Bragg's technique. I want you to focus on these three right here. You notice it starts far away, and then the next frame is closer, and the next frame is closer. Okay. I could explain to my friends, starting maybe water. There's water there, it's not clear. A rocky island in the middle, and a man. Closer and closer we come to the man, until we see him standing there with his sword. Farther, closer and closer. That's what I'm doing. So I'd do that with my friends, and we'd all hang out like that. And then we decided to start a group, a performing group called Heavy Maze. I think I might have one more demonstration here before I show it. I enjoy explaining about this one. It's one of my favorites. It's hard to see, but there's a guy in a bar. It's a bar environment. And there's a woman, and the man's behind her. Now it's the man's view of the woman, and he notices her cigarette's there. And there he is with them. A long bar, the taps, and the patrons. A man looks across the bar at a woman who's leaving. Her cigarettes were left behind. You understand this? What I just explained? Okay. Now, my experience with the group, we started performing. And I remember I was a child creating, then Bernard Bragg in high school, and now this. And it all came together. I learned all these things, but I didn't understand it yet. It was subconscious. Later I understood it fully. Now let's start on the timeline. Around 1983, I was in this performing group, and one day Jim Cohen came up to me, and he said, that was a neat group, you know, and I like your poetry. Poetry, I said. Poetry? What? By the way, I'd like to thank Jim because he encouraged me. Without Jim, I wouldn't be here today. What? Poetry? And why did I have that kind of attitude? Well, it was because the word poetry is a scary word, and it's a very personal word, and in the deaf community, if you drop the word poetry in the middle, everybody screams and jumps back. Because we've all had frustrations with English growing up. And poetry is an expression of your experience. It means the art of self-expression. So when you express yourself, you become very vulnerable. And so a deaf kid will be struggling with this expression, maybe experience maybe related to his parents. Should I tell it? Should I express it? And then he does it, and the teacher looks at it and says, no, the rhythm and rhyme isn't there, and really is an insult to the kid. And handicap, it doesn't matter. As long as you can express your feelings and your thoughts, then I count it. In the deaf community, they have it. Like if you go to a deaf club and you see people signing away, last night I was going through the town. And if you took that and said, show it to a hearing person, they would say, I went out and had a good time. You know, it loses the translation. But what they're doing is beautiful. That's art. I'd like to emphasize that a lot. Now back to Jim. Me, poetry? Jim said, well, you know, if you're wondering about it, there's a famous poet that's going to be coming soon named Allen Ginsberg. Signed A.G. Allen Ginsberg. He's a neat guy, and you might want to see it. He's going to be doing a workshop and lecture, and you should go. It's up to you, you know. Yeah. So, I was willing to try. So on February 1st, 1984, well, before I explain to you about that, Allen Ginsberg is a famous poet, like Jim said, from the Beat Generation. They didn't label themselves as a group. Other people did. They were actually just a group of friends that really loved each other and supported each other in the 40s and 50s. They were kind of a rebellious group. They'd tell the audience, I love that man, he's a beautiful man, and the other guy would say, I love his hair, and they're really good at it, and they're good friends. Allen is famous for that. And he came here to meet another person from another world, Robert Panera. So they got together and they were sharing their information. But one thing that really hit me hard about the whole thing was that Allen Ginsberg said, when you're translating to another language, a poem into another language, you can often translate the pictures. It's strong and clear, but you can't completely translate the rhythm, the rhyme, the wit. And what does that mean, completely translate the image? Okay, you saw Patrick's example, but I'd like to show it again to emphasize it. Okay, read that for a minute. Notice the green line. Allen Ginsberg asked, can anyone translate that line? Patrick Grable was willing to do it. He looked at the line and he said, why hydrogen? Well, I want it to sound like a hydrogen bomb. So Patrick said it means I have to do this, and this, and then I can do it. So Ginsberg said, does that mean it loses the translation, or is it exciting for you, or what? And Patrick said, okay, put the coin in the machine, the record started on, the music, and the bomb. And Ginsberg said, that's it. That's good. That's another poem. What did he mean by that's another poem? Because he had taken a clear image from the poem but he had added the coin to start the music, to get the bomb going. The concept is different, but the image is strong. So that means it's a new art form. It's a new poem. That moment, remember, I was explaining about my experiences and my prerequisites. They all came to the front of my mind, and I understood what it was all about. That's really what started influencing me to really get into poetry. His experience caused my experience to grow. Okay, Allen Ginsberg said that we're lucky today because modern American poetry tends to try to experiment with visual possibilities. And so deaf people have the benefit of using that. What did he mean by visual possibilities? Show you what he meant. Okay, read this. Okay, that's from Shakespeare, obviously, sonnet number 72. It's my favorite, because it's the only one I can understand. In my high school program, I had to memorize the words and get up in front of class and speak them out. But it was fun anyway. Okay. My point is, where's the image in there? It has it, but it's not quickly recognizable imaging. Okay, that line where I lined it, in my opinion, is the most visual image. The body buried with the name. But the rest of it has to do with rhythm and beauty and things like that. See, L-I-E, it's the same, the emphasis is there. But I struggled with that to understand what that meant. Lie. Now, from Greek times all the way through Shakespeare, a few poets were very visual with images. And then around the 19th century, there was an American poet named Walt Whitman. He loved to go out west around 1803, around that time, and he would look at beautiful things like gold miners, you know, the gold miners' camps, cooking their food. They'd throw the garbage out, and that was what he would write about, the garbage, not the trees and the sunshine. That was very visual. People really loved his work and his influence through American poetry. And another one, Frank O'Hara, William Carlos Williams. Their influences, city life experiences, personal experience. And then in the 40s and 50s, during the Beat Generation, there was this strong image happening. It's my favorite group, the Beat Generation, to read because it's the one I can understand the easiest because it's such clear images. Okay. One of the Beat Generation poets' names was Peter Orlovsky, and he had this poem. Go ahead and read it. Okay, now, there's a lot of images in there. It's a lot different from that, a big difference from that. Okay, let's look at some of these images. The ones I underline there are strong images that I can understand easily and do. The first line, tips of her toes should be where her bone toe stubs protruding out. It's a clear image. How about eat? She has to use her to eat. She has to use her rotten leper fingers. I saw a 4-inch ring of maggots. Could mean a ring of maggots around the wrist, or like this, or like that. A ring of maggots. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of different images you can get out of that. So you see what I mean? Allen Ginsberg said that modern American poetry tends to be very close to what deaf poets could use. And I can take things out of that much easier than from the Shakespeare poem. Okay, so now I'll do a full demonstration of a poem from Gregory Corso. He was a late poet from the Beat generation. Okay, now notice the underlined parts. Those are the ones that I used, played around with, experimented with, and this is what I came up with. A child came to me, swinging an ocean on a stick. My sister is dead. I pulled down his pants and gave him a kick. I drove him down the streets of my generation. I screamed his name, his cursed name, and children in joy leapt to the name and running came. I screamed his name, and mothers and fathers bent their heads to hear. I screamed his name, and the fury of the parents came gnawing on his brain. I called on the angels on the rooftops of my generation. I screamed his name, and they came and gnawed the child's bones. I screamed his name, beauty, beauty, beauty. Okay, now, I took the images from there, but I didn't translate it word for word. I couldn't use the rhythm exactly. I added a person. I added that. He didn't say anything. Who is me? Could have been a priest, it could have been anyone. But I created it, and it flowed. I needed to make it flow just like the hearing poet would. So that was my form of doing this poem. Okay, after that experience from Allen Ginsberg and Panera, that workshop, a student group was formed called the Bird Brain Society. And it was named after Ginsberg's poem, Bird Brain. And we used to perform here in the student bar at NTID and exposed a lot of people to that kind of work. And at that time, my early work, I remember Bird Brain's technical ideas. Oh. Bernard Bragg's technique influenced me a lot. So I'll show you how that happened. Before I do that, though, I'd like to talk about my visual text. Okay, so let's remember that for a minute and go to there was in general, poets take their experiences and express them through images. Then they look for fresh words, different words. Maybe nobody's ever used that specific word before to describe that image. And they kind of put them together and weave them together till they've got it. And then they can stand up there and read it off of the piece of paper. And if the word's no good, then it doesn't sound good. How can a deaf poet do that? That's why I call it a visual text. Because I have my experiences. Maybe the different senses, taste, smell, sight, feeling. Hearing is out. And I'll improv on those experiences. Suppose, for example, the taste was, in this city, and there's machinery going on, and the air is kind of polluted. And it's kind of an acidic taste in the air. And smell is maybe a poor bum on the street. That's the smell.
Hello?
Feeling maybe is an underground subway. You can feel that. Okay. So I take that inner experience and all those things that I've seen and put them together, and this is what you come up with. Walking down the street, traffic passing by, buildings. Guy taps me on the shoulder and it's a bum. His breath is revolting, and I push him away from me. And then there's the air and the pollution in the air. And I feel something strange. There's not very many cars, so what could it be? There's the stairway to the subway. Oh. And all around me, this dirt. And I think of the farms that used to be here. People riding in carriages. So that's the perspective. And it all comes together into a poem. That's the visual text, gathering all those things together. We're not searching for words, we're searching for visual experiences. So I call that the visual text. And that got involved into my techniques. So one of my early techniques talked about Bernard Bragg's influence. And let me show you this one. An early one of my poems. The presidential candidate, Secret Service, the crowd of citizenry, Secret Service, the president, Secret Service. The cheering crowd and the man in the crowd with the gun. Slow motion technique now. The crowd cheers. The Secret Service searches the crowd. The candidate. Okay. So that's a really early technique I used. Notice there was the important person, there was the security, there was the crowd, and the person with the gun. And they were all right there in one spot. And that influence was from Bernard Bragg. So then I experimented with that a little bit, and it led to, that was 1983. Around 83, 84, started playing with place to place. There'd be a place like in America, in Florida, where the space shuttle is, and Central America, Nicaragua. Kenny's voicing for me is always criticizing my spelling. Nicaragua. Farm areas. People working on the farm, remember, they're over on that side of the stage, okay? T-minus 30 seconds. The cheering crowds in the space shuttle. T-minus 10, 9. When in Central America, a man works on the farm. Beyond the fields and through the trees come T-minus 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. A man with a gun enters the farmland. 1, 0. We have ignition. Roll, Challenger. Space Shuttle, Central America. Okay? So that shows two different things happening at the same time in different places. And later that Charlie the dog running through grass. As a puppy, Charlie running through grass. As an adolescent, he's running after a ball. So it goes back and forth in time very quickly, from person to person, from place to place, from time to time. Okay, that was a strong technique from Bernard Bragg. Is there another way that we could do that? And Kenny and I talked about that for a long time. And we decided to use television movement, like a camera, close-ups far away, to show emotions and feelings. You know, like in a movie when things come close to you, that feeling. Okay, for example. What's a TV movement? Okay, like, fire. Okay. Huge, red, orange walls, glowing, white rocks, smoke, and a red river roaring along the rocks. Fire. Beyond the fire, a circle of rocks surround it, a pair of shoes, pants leading to the stomach of a beer-bellied man sitting with his beer, watching the fire. So it started real close. We were in the fire and slowly moved back. Okay. Now, written poem has a lot of details in it, and I want that too. So I benefit from another thing that's a TV movement, like a farmer's market. Ripe, fresh melons for sale in the heart of the market, tables piled with fruits, pole with hooked chickens, selling clothing, a goat. It describes the details. And so those techniques that I created with Kenny, and I know as time goes on we'll play more and more and more with that. Now let's go back to around 1984. Jim came up to me again, and he says, your poetry's really nice. You think maybe you'd mind doing it in front of the hearing community? The hearing community, but by the way, thanks, Jim, for giving me the opportunity again. Me? Wait a minute, I was afraid because there was no voice. I wanted a voice interpreter might limit my creativity. I didn't want to have to meld with someone like that. And Jim said, don't worry. I have a friend, and it was really worth it because that person met me, became a great friend of mine, and really got involved with my poetry. And he's been my voice almost every time I've ever done poetry, and he's voicing for me right now. The man with the glasses and the beard and the shirt. What's your name? Abdul. Abdul. Rumor has it his name is Kenny. He and I started working and influencing each other. It was a really important moment in my life. Two things happened. The first is the voice. I really respect people who translate deaf poetry and translate it and search for words and whole phrases and fit it right in word for word with what the poet is doing. I really respect that. But in my opinion and my work, the translator responsible for translating my poetry is me, and I enjoy doing it because I can control the voice. I don't know what he's saying right now, for instance. I don't know what he's talking about. But in a poem, it's my personal expression. I want to know what he's saying. So this is how we work together. Kenny will voice in the most minimal possible way. Maybe he'll throw out words, but between the words, maybe he'll fill it with sound. Like, for example, if I'm doing a helicopter, he won't say, that helicopter just landed. He won't say that. He'll just say, chopter, helicopter, and make the sound. Like that, and I can feel the sound. Or when a gun shoots off, he won't say pow, he'll go make a sound with his breath so that you can feel it. So when I'm performing, I can feel the speaker do the gun, and sometimes it scares me, you know, during the performance sometimes. Machine gun fire, experimenting with words and sounds, and playing with them. And he lets me create what I want and supports me. So he helps the hearing audience understand what I'm doing while I'm doing my work. So, now, we often create things together, and he should have a lot of credit for that. We share a lot and we're equal in this. Okay, creatively, really it's the most amazing thing in the world to create. You have to become crazy. You have to just be silly and create. You can't just think about it, you gotta do it. and then take all the different choices out of what you've done. It can be a misunderstanding, could be a misunderstood communication, could be improvisation. Okay, perfect example of misunderstanding. One day we were working, and I was doing a boy, a Spanish boy who was holding something up. And Kenny was going, oh, that's really good, and we worked on it for a while. And then I noticed I wasn't sure if he got it right. And I was saying, what am I holding in my hand to him? And Kenny said, a dead chicken. And I said, no, wait a minute, I meant a doll, a corn doll. It was a misunderstanding, but I liked that image of the dead chicken. So that misunderstanding, that image, we used it. We kept it. Okay, misunderstood communication. I'm famous for going off of the sign, doing it wrong. For example, pig, I sign it like this. I don't know why, I just do it wrong. Or the king, I'll do it backwards. So, sometimes Kenny will notice that I'm signing wrong, like that. My fingers should be extended, and then we'll end up turning it into a man whose finger's been cut off. Hey, you, your finger's cut off. And so we'll take that symbol and use it. And then we'll improv with it. And the way we're going to do it, is it's time for Kenny to come out of the box.
Okay, now we're going to show you how the two of us improv and come up with poems. We're not going to create a poem right now, we're just going to play, okay? And I'm going to play with Kenny. Okay, now, often what happens is that, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, it often happens. The reason for that is because Kenny, dear Kenny, can't sleep. He has insomnia. So pretend we're in my bedroom. I'm just about ready to go to sleep. I'm all psyched for it.
Oh, I just want to talk for just a short time.
Come on,
No,
short.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, what do you want to do?
Okay. I have an idea.
He's not shy. I'm surprised he's not being shy. Congratulations, Kenny.
Well, I've been thinking all night about this stuff. Okay. I have an idea. Remember, you and I were talking about...
Wait, you have no ideas. Remember, you have no ideas.
Okay, no. Well, this is from a long time ago. Remember, you and I were talking about this idea.
Oh, come on, really prove it.
Well, okay, I'll prove it. Remember, we were talking about people and living together as friends and getting together and then just someone just dropping right out of the picture.
What do you mean?
Like a lifelong friend of mine. I've had some friends who have
You mean
died.
somebody that was friend a long time ago, or somebody that you're friends with now dying? What do you mean?
Well,
Hey, what are you talking about? Like Blair? You mean your friend that died a long time
Okay.
ago?
yeah, my friend Blair.
You were friends a long time ago.
Well, this guy had cancer, okay? And some of the cells inside became cancerous, and it just got him, and he died. So I was thinking maybe we could show that happening in like speeded up motion, and show someone died and then buried and going real fast.
Okay, I mean, should we do it in, should we do this, like, so pretend I'm, buying the casket and going to the funeral, and I'm the person buying, I'm the, pallbearer, and then there's the grave diggers. And then maybe I go inside the body, and I can become like a microscopic view, and I can see each cell, and I can see them uniting, and I can see them mitosing, and I can see them expanding. And the cancer cells taking over the whole body and expanding throughout the body and eating up every single part of the body, up the arms, and into the body and up inside the eyes. You mean like I should get inside the body like that?
Oh, yeah. Sounds like a good idea.
We had some other kind of idea?
Yeah, well, that's great. Let me see. Okay, that's a great concept. What? Oh, okay, you got me.
Up and I often do that at home. I think you get the idea about that kind of thing the two of us kind of do. I think that's enough, or do you want to do more?
Oh, I've had enough. I'm going to get out of here.
I'll voice for you now. I'm going to go sit in the black box and I'll voice for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now you get an idea how we work together a little bit. Now, after I met Kenny and I started working in the hearing community, then I was thinking about 1985. Jim was printing a magazine called Action 70, and it was going to focus on deaf poetry. Debbie, Patrick Grable, and me, our poems were printed. It was a deaf person writing poetry. For me, speaking for myself, it's beautiful writing. But when I take that writing, there's two ways I can do it. I can sign it, make it up in my mind, and then type it. Or I can type out the poem, think about how I want to translate that into sign. When I'm finished with that, it's not the same. So I have to type up new words to fit the signs. So I like to call that my press secretary, meaning it represents my work. It doesn't show the beauty of my work. Remember, in the mind of the deaf poet, the movement of an eye beats all the words on the paper. For a deaf poet, so for example, what I'm doing, I can get an individual experience from reading that, but I need a group experience. So when I put things down on paper, that's my press agent. But I refuse to let those words beat me or take me over. And as time went on, Debbie, Rennie set up probably what's the first deaf poetry series in a restaurant called Jazzberries. And a lot of deaf people went there and got exposure. Deaf poets like Matthew Moore, like Ed Swayze, Ailey Panzer, Ray Kenny, Howie Seago. And all that exposure was going on. And that leads to what I'd like to close with in my lecture. I think I have a strong belief that deaf poetry has strong possibilities, a strong drive to preserve the deaf culture, because poetry allows playing with language. And the language is part of art, and the art is part of culture, and the language and the culture go together. And I really believe that exposure could become mainstream American literature, because our society is very, very visual. Every day we see advertisements, TVs, movie things, billboards, MTV, all different kinds of things like that. You walk down the street, it tells you to stop, you stop. You don't walk across the street. It's strong exposure. And the deaf people are very visual too. So it could become part of American literature. Hearing people don't know sign language, and they see it and they say it's interesting, you know, the hands are pretty. And it's fascinating. But the hearing people who know sign language will say, wow, that's amazing, that's far out. That's far out how he signed that. And then the deaf people will say, wow, look at that guy on stage signing an ASL. And they're inspired by that. So all three groups feel a benefit from that. They can educate people in schools to show the art of that, of deafness and deaf creativity. But let me warn you, because this is a very, very new thing. This convention, this conference is the first time it's ever happened. And it's a very personal thing, so don't try and label it. There must be these rules and start infighting. You really can't label it. You can't label it. Only I can label my own work. No one has the right to label my work, and I don't have the right to label yours. But I have the responsibility to carry deaf poetry into maturity. All of us do. So we can stand strong. Let it grow. Don't worry about the mistakes. Let it grow. Let it build up. Don't fight. Let's throw that out. In the next 3 days, you're going to see 4 other deaf poets and their perspectives of their work. And their perspective is very valuable. And they have different values, and I really look up to that. Let it grow. See what happens. Just watch and enjoy. Let the poets express themselves from their hearts and through their hands. It's beautiful. Thank you.
My voice and Susan Chapel back up. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Okay, very wonderful presentation, very good start for and we have 4 more presentations to go, and each will be very, very much variety. They show us a lot of their different experience, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, I'd like to say one thing. You see how I wrote the stanzas. I used space to show the differences between my ideas. ASL can also use space in that way. I hadn't known that at the time, but I started to realize that the way I wrote things down on paper correlated with the ways I thought of it in sign. Ocean huge and blue spreads out in space. Ripples getting bigger and bigger, waves bigger and bigger, splashing its hands upon an old rock, rising up and up on top a tree. Old and crooked, watches and muses upon the ocean. Both conflict, yet both blend. Okay, now you see the way the stanzas are situated upon the page. One indicating the ocean, and how it's on the left side of the page, washing up on the right side of the page against the old rock. And how now you see how you have to read from side to side, and you have to figure out which way you want to read it. At first I had played with different ways to write it, but I thought it didn't work on paper. Next I tried a similar idea, but in a different way. This is entitled Oh. This is called Love Song. Love Song Sang. Oh, you see how O's are written on both sides of the paper? I use simultaneous movement of my hands on either side of my body. And in the middle, my heart beats in the middle of the signing space as in the middle of the page. For you and I love you much, much, much. It's kind of a bit much, a little bit sickly sweet, but... And then I have part 2. You are like the gentle rain that falls on my face. You are like the sun that shines warmly on my face.
Both are coming from either direction. Did you have a question?